It all began on a rainy Tuesday evening. I was sitting in our cozy apartment, waiting for Rohan to come home from work. The table was set with his favorite dishes, butter chicken, garlic naan, and the special kheer I had spent hours preparing. Today marked 3 years since we first met, and I wanted everything to be perfect. Little did I know that this anniversary would be the last happy memory before my world came crashing down. Looking back now, I can see all the signs were there. The late nights at work, the sudden business trips, the password-protected phone that he never let out of his sight. But love, as they say, is blind, and I was willingly blindfolded by my trust in him. Our relationship had been the envy of all our friends, the perfect couple with the perfect life. We had matching careers, compatible dreams, and plans that stretched decades into the future. Every morning began with his good morning texts. Every evening ended with our nightly walks in the park nearby. He remembered every anniversary, every special date, and celebrated them with such enthusiasm that it made me feel like the luckiest woman alive. The way he held my hand when we walked, the way his eyes lit up when he saw me, the tender care he showed when I was sick, these weren't just acts, or so I thought. They felt genuine, authentic, straight from the heart. Our families had met and approved. Our friends constantly talked about when we would finally get married. We had even started looking at houses last month, dreaming about our future home, discussing paint colors and garden layouts. Everything felt so right, so destined. But destiny, as I would soon discover, had a cruel sense of humor. That particular evening, as I waited for him, glancing at the clock every few minutes, I noticed his laptop was still open on the coffee table. He had probably rushed out and forgotten to shut it down. Normally, I would never invade his privacy, but something compelled me that day. Call it intuition, call it premonition, call it whatever you want. As my fingers touched the keyboard, I could feel my heart pounding. What was I doing? This wasn't me. I was Priya, the trusting girlfriend, the understanding partner. The one who never doubted, never suspected. But something stronger than my principles pushed me forward. The screen lit up, and there it was, a chat window still open, messages flashing in real time. And what I saw there would change everything forever. The words on the screen blurred before my eyes as tears welled up, but not before I read those devastating messages between him and the person I trusted most in the world after him, my best friend since college, Anjali. The jokes they shared, the plans they made, the intimate details they discussed, it was all there, laid bare before my disbelieving eyes. 3 years of my life, 3 years of what I thought was genuine love and friendship, came crashing down in that single moment. The butter chicken grew cold, the naan became stiff, and the kheer developed a skin on top, much like my heart that developed a protective layer in that instant. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply closed the laptop, cleaned up the dinner table, and went to bed. But sleep never came that night. Instead, a plan began to form in my mind, a quiet, calculated plan that would ensure neither of them would ever forget the price of betrayal. The morning after discovering their betrayal, I woke up with a clarity I had never experienced before. The initial shock had subsided, replaced by a cold, steely determination. I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't see the broken, betrayed woman I expected to see. Instead, I saw someone new, someone capable of patience, strategy, and silent strength. The tears I should have shed had transformed into resolve overnight. I went through my morning routine as usual, made breakfast, got ready for work, even smiled at Rohan when he woke up. He had no idea that the woman kissing him goodbye that morning was fundamentally different from the one he had said goodnight to. At work, while my hands were busy with spreadsheets and presentations, my mind was working on a different project altogether. I divided my plan into 3 phases, just like any successful business strategy one handled at my marketing job. Phase 1 was information gathering. I needed concrete evidence, not just emotional suspicion. I started small, first with his social media. I created fake accounts, followed both him and Anjali, studied their patterns. Then I moved to their digital footprints, their favorite restaurants, the movies they watched together, the hotels they visited during his so-called business trips. I became a digital detective, piecing together their secret life while maintaining my normal routine. Phase 2 was financial independence. We had a joint account where we both deposited money for our future. I started gradually withdrawing small amounts that wouldn't raise suspicion, just like the famous slow-boiling frog analogy. I opened a new account in a different bank, building my escape fund while continuing to contribute to our joint savings. Phase 3 was the masterpiece, the grand revelation that would expose their betrayal in the most dramatic way possible. I knew they were planning to meet at our favorite restaurant on their 6-month anniversary, the same place where Rohan had first told me he loved me. The irony wasn't lost on me. Every day became a performance, and I was the lead actress in my own life. I smiled when I wanted to scream. I kissed when I wanted to push away. I listened to his lies when every fiber of my being wanted to confront him. The hardest part was facing Anjali, who continued to play the role of concerned best friend, asking about my relationship, giving me advice, all while secretly meeting my boyfriend. She would come over for coffee, sit on our couch, and sympathize about how busy Rohan had become, never knowing that I knew everything. There were moments when I almost broke, when Rohan brought me flowers for no reason, when he planned a surprise date, when he talked about our future with such conviction that I almost believed him again. But then I would remember those chat messages, the hotel receipts I found, the photos I discovered hidden in his email drafts. Each piece of evidence solidified my resolve. I wasn't just doing this for revenge anymore. I was doing it for every woman who had been betrayed, for every person who had been taken for granted, for the principle that trust, once broken, must have consequences. The quiet girl they thought they knew was gone, replaced by a strategist who understood that the best revenge isn't delivered in screams and shouts, but in careful planning and perfect timing. As weeks turned into months, my transformation from victim to strategist became complete. I had always been good at my job as a marketing manager, but now I was applying those same skills to the most important campaign of my life, Operation Silent Justice. Every detail mattered, every move was calculated. I started with technology. I bought a tiny voice recorder that could fit in any bag, a camera pen that looked like ordinary stationery, and installed tracking software on Rohan's phone, using the one time he asked me to fix his phone as an opportunity. I became an expert at gathering evidence without raising suspicion. I learned their patterns. They met every Thursday evening when Rohan claimed he had yoga class and every other Sunday when he had family dinners. I documented everything: dates, times, locations, even their conversations. The evidence folder on my encrypted cloud storage grew thicker each week. Meanwhile, I continued playing the perfect girlfriend. I cooked his favorite meals, remembered his parents' birthdays, supported him through work stress, and even helped Anjali through her relationship problems, the irony of which still stung. The financial part required even more finesse. I created fake business opportunities and investment proposals to justify withdrawing larger amounts from our joint account. I told Rohan I was investing in a friend's startup that showed great promise. Being in marketing helped. I created convincing presentations and documents that would make anyone believe it was a genuine investment opportunity. Slowly but steadily, I transferred about 70% of our joint savings to my secure account. What made it easier was that Rohan was so preoccupied with his double life that he barely noticed the financial changes. He trusted me completely. After all, I was the reliable, predictable Priya who never questioned, never doubted. The most challenging part was emotional. There were nights I lay awake beside him, watching him sleep, wondering how someone could be so comfortable living a lie. There were moments I wanted to shake him awake and demand answers. There were days the pain felt so physical I could barely breathe. But I channeled all that emotion into my plan. Every tear I suppressed became another piece of evidence gathered. Every moment of heartbreak transformed into another step toward my goal. I started rebuilding my life parallel to destroying theirs. I reached out to old friends I had neglected during my relationship with Rohan. I joined a gym and started taking self-defense classes, not just for physical strength, but for mental fortitude. I reconnected with my passions, painting, writing, hiking, all the things I had gradually given up to make more time for our relationship. I was creating my escape route while they were busy building their fantasy world. The final piece of the puzzle was the revelation venue. I chose the same restaurant where they had their first secret date, the place where it all began for them. I booked the table next to theirs for that fateful Thursday, ensuring I would have the perfect view and perfect timing. I prepared the envelope containing all the evidence, printed chat conversations, hotel receipts, photos, bank statements showing the transferred funds, and a carefully crafted letter that explained everything without a single angry word. Every document was organized, every piece of evidence labeled, every fact verified. This wasn't an emotional outburst, it was a clinical presentation of truth. The day of reckoning arrived with unexpected calmness. I woke up early, meditated for 20 minutes, went for a run, and dressed in my favorite blue dress, the one Rohan always said made my eyes sparkle. Irony had become my constant companion. I went to work as usual, attended meetings, completed projects, all while the clock ticked down to the evening's events. My colleagues noticed nothing unusual, just Priya being her efficient, composed self. Little did they know that today was the day I would reclaim my power. As evening approached, I went home to prepare. Rohan had already texted that he had yoga class and would be home late. I replied with a heart emoji, the same way I always did. Then, I began getting ready for my own appointment with Destiny. I looked at myself in the mirror one last time before leaving home. The woman staring back was someone I barely recognized, yet completely understood. She was stronger, wiser, and ready. The restaurant was exactly as I remembered, elegant, intimate, the perfect place for romantic dinners and devastating revelations. I arrived early and took my seat at the table I had reserved, strategically positioned to have a clear view of theirs, but hidden enough to remain unnoticed initially. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was beating with a steady, determined rhythm. Right on time, they walked in, laughing, holding hands, completely absorbed in each other. They looked like the perfect couple, and for a moment, my resolve wavered. But then I remembered all the lies, all the deception, all the moments I had trusted them completely. I watched them for what felt like both an eternity and an instant. I saw the way he pulled out her chair, the way she touched his hand across the table, the intimate smiles they exchanged. These were the same gestures he had once reserved only for me. When the moment felt right, I stood up and walked toward their table. My steps were steady, my breathing controlled. They didn't notice me until I was standing right beside their table. The look on their faces was priceless, a mixture of shock, guilt, and panic. Anjali's smile froze. Rohan's face paled. For a moment, nobody spoke. The silence was more powerful than any words could have been. Then I did what I had planned. I placed the envelope on the table between them. "I believe this belongs to you," I said, my voice calm and steady, betraying none of the storm inside me. Rohan started to say something, probably another lie, but I raised my hand slightly. "Don't," I said quietly. "There's nothing left to say. Everything that needs to be said is in there." I looked at Anjali, then back at Rohan. 3 years of lies and tonight. And with that, I turned and walked away. I didn't look back, didn't rush, didn't break character. I walked out of that restaurant with my head high, my dignity intact, and my freedom secured. The cool evening air felt like a rebirth. I didn't go home immediately. I went to the park where Rohan and I had shared our first date and sat on our favorite bench. I watched couples walking by, families playing, children laughing, life going on, beautiful and relentless. And for the first time since discovering the betrayal, I cried. Not tears of pain, but tears of release, of closure, of victory. The days that followed were a whirlwind of changes. Rohan tried calling, messaging, even showing up in my office. I didn't respond to any of it. I had said everything I needed to say in that envelope. My silence became my final message. Meanwhile, I put the final parts of my plan into motion. I moved out of our apartment while he was at work, taking only what was mine. I had already found a new place, a beautiful studio apartment with large windows that let in the morning sun. It was smaller than our old place, but it was mine alone. The first night in my new home, I slept more peacefully than I had in months. The financial independence I had secured gave me the freedom to take my time deciding what to do next. I took a month off work, traveled to places I had always wanted to visit, reconnected with myself. I read books I had been meaning to read, learned to cook new recipes, and even adopted a kitten from a local shelter. I was rebuilding my life piece by piece, on my own terms. About a month after the restaurant incident, I heard through mutual friends that Rohan and Anjali had broken up. The weight of the truth had been too heavy for their relationship to bear. The karma, it seemed, had done its work perfectly. I didn't feel happy about their suffering, nor did I feel vindicated. I felt free. Free from the lies, free from the betrayal, free to be myself without constantly worrying about being enough. 6 months later, I ran into Anjali at a coffee shop. She looked different, older, weary. She approached me hesitantly, apologizing profusely, crying about how she had made the biggest mistake of her life. I listened patiently, then simply said, "I forgive you." And I meant it, not because what she did was okay, but because carrying anger was too heavy a burden. Forgiveness, I had learned, was more for myself than for her. As for Rohan, I never saw him again. Last I heard, he had transferred to another city. Some stories are meant to end, and ours was one of them. Today, a year later, I'm sitting in my apartment, writing this while my kitten sleeps curled up beside me. I've been promoted at work, I've made new friends, I've even started dating again, slowly, cautiously, but hopefully. The experience changed me, but it didn't break me. It taught me that our greatest strengths often emerge from our deepest pains. It showed me that sometimes the most powerful response to betrayal isn't loud retaliation but quiet, strategic reclamation of your own power. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, remember that your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. Your strength isn't measured by how loud you can scream, but by how gracefully you can rebuild. And your revenge isn't about hurting those who hurt you, but about living your best life despite them. The pen drive, the letters, the evidence, those were just tools. The real victory was in rediscovering myself, in learning that I was complete even before Rohan, and would remain complete long after. Some stories end with wedding bells, others with dramatic confrontations. Mine ended with silence, but it was the most powerful silence I've ever known.